is all the way from India, and she's just right there from India. And let me give a little brief about this guy. His education, a B.Tech. I'm not too sure about B.Tech. Ano kaya yung B? Agricultural Engineering from College of Agricultural Engineering in 1984 at Punjab Agricultural University. And also a post-harvest engineering from Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur, India in 1986. In his field of experiences, he got 4 years in hybrid seed company of Pioneer Overseas Corporation, Des Moines, Iowa, USA, as project engineer for 17 years in basmati rice field in various techno-commercial activities, also 13 years in the field of food grains, bulk storage, handling, and transportation business in various techno-commercial activities. His professional training is a lead auditor course in HACCP, HACCP, an ISO for food safety, SGS. Hindi ko alam mga ito pero turuan mo na lang ako dito later on ha, Doc. In SGS India Grain Quality Management from Purdue University, USA. Wow, what a big man this is. And let us all welcome with a warm applause no other than Mr. MUNISWAR Vasudeva, the Managing Director of Lotus Harvestech Private Limited in India. In short, Mr. Vaso. Take it away, Mr. Vaso.
Yeah, can I speak now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yes,
so,
please.
Namaskar from India.
Yes, please. Yes.
Namaskar from India to a beautiful country which is very close to my heart, that is Philippine.
Thank you.
Today is my fourth interaction. 3 were physical in last 7-8 years. And thanks to Rod, thanks to Roger, and thanks to now Mr. Salazar, Dr. Salazar, for giving this opportunity to showcase to showcase and suggest few things on post-harvest engineering, which is field very close to my heart. And I love to share it wherever it is possible, and I'm given the opportunity. And I would like to say, express my gratitude to Mr. Dr. Dhar, Secretary, Department of Agriculture. And I've listened to Antonio Mercado, Mr. Estrada. It has given me a lot of socio-political stuff, which is essential part of it. I will express it in my next slides coming. Next, please. Next slide, please. Yeah. Now next. Now I see that post-harvest and storage is a service provided to the farming community and the end users. According to me, that farming community and the end users are intrinsically correlated with each other. We cannot separate both of them. So if we want to see food security, then it has to be in correlation with the pre-harvest, which is farming. So now giving a service providing to the farming community and user for stable remunerative farm income. So that is the foremost duty of post-harvest and storage. And obviously when we have a sufficient storage, then it leads to low food inflation at national level. And we have a good post-harvest activities like drying, removing the trash from the healthy seeds. So for hygienic and safe farm produce for healthy populations, so basically both are vulnerable for overwetting, especially paddy as well as corn. So it has a lot of issues on aflatoxins, and aflatoxins issue can only be tackled by drying it immediately. I will show you, how it influences it and within how many days of harvesting in data coming. And we must have, Philippines is very, very unique. My three visits and interaction with Rod and Roger and all, I've learned, it has to have both backward and forward integration. Port to the farm to the consumer, farm to the consumer, or maybe exports and all. So it has to be really smart to have ease of backward and forward integration. And secondly and foremost, post-harvest major responsibility is optimization of post-harvest logistics, spoilage, and storage losses. So this storage losses is every grain saved is a kind of a grain produced. So it is criminal to waste any kind of harvested crop due to bad post-harvest practices. And I had seen, and I'm so sorry to observe and listen on the TV channels about the latest typhoons and natural disasters which Philippines frequently faces it. So it is more essential that grain availability is available during natural disasters. Next, please. Next slide. Next. So post-harvest solutions at the macro levels are easy to categorize for corn, crop drying at community level and industrial scales. At community level, we can have our 2 ton per hour, because cobs are harvested generally between 30 to 35%, and which cannot be immediately shelled, so it has to be dried. And optimum moisture content of shelling, it is about 22 to 25%. So cob has to be dried from 30% to 7-8% down. And corn shelling, after shelling, again, it has to be dried to the level of 12 to 13%. So we can have industrial scale, this thing. I'd seen in Canada, that we would, Mr. Estrada was discussing about cooperatives and all. Canada has its own kind of unique cooperatives who owns a very big silo infrastructure as well as processing. So they hire professionals to manage their post-harvest this thing where farmers can give it as a warehousing receipt as well as his quality is measured given the receipt for the weight. Either he can take it back as is where is, they add whatever trash he is looking for because he wants in a natural way the way he has handed it over, or in a clean form, and the fees is charged, and that fees itself is self-sufficient, self-sustainable to go in for there. And I have learned that initially 4 to 5 years that government has given them some kind of viability gap funding to let them give them a hand holding, and after they were on their own, they are managing it since last 3-4 decades. I expect that can happen even in Philippines. Obviously, for the paddy drying at community and industrial scale, both are possible, 1 to 2 tons per hour to 30 tons per hour, and rice operations. So rice operations are a bit complicated over here, but uh, the standard solutions are available all over the world. Next, please. So drying is utmost important, as I was emphasizing in the last slide. Life expectancy issue related to high levels of aflatoxin, which deteriorate the health of humans and livestock. I think livestock are more vulnerable to higher level of aflatoxins. In basmati, while I was exporting to the international level, that aflatoxins levels, my aim used to be below 1 ppb. Now, another PPB is parts per billion. Now my daughter in US is working on parts per trillion. So, tolerance level are reducing because of our immunity, this thing. Livestock cannot even withstand this 1 ppb. So the only solution of aflatoxin is immediate drying after harvesting. And because of higher aflatoxins, India is facing that problem, and now it's getting resolved because of the government intervention and private player coming into play. Exports does not, because as I said, livestock are much more vulnerable to higher level of more than 1 ppb level of aflatoxins. So market price will drastically reduce. So any investment to reduce aflatoxin level is self-sustainable. Its return on investment will be very quick. Then drying will drastic. If you don't dry, the shelf life of the food grain is reduced. I'll show you in the data. Let's have a look at the shelf life data in next slide, with the conclusion that drying is utmost important. Next slide, please. If you see this, this is the data on the y-axis as moisture. On the x-axis, this is temperature. If you see that, I foresee that average temperature would be 30 degree. And, when we're shelling the grains at 25%, from 35% to 35% from the cob drying, at 20 degree itself, the shelf life is just 3 days. And when we say shelf life, that quality of, physiochemical characteristics are changing. Physio is that a starch value is degrading, proteins are degrading, and chemical part, especially is aflatoxin, is getting inflected upon, and which will be very difficult to be eliminated at a later stage. So removable moisture 13% at 30 degree, you will have at least 90 days of shelf life. That is about 3 months. And if you reduce it further, you can have it a little more. And if you store it in bulk, I will show you, then you can store it for more than a 6 months, more than a 1 month. I mean, I'm handling the wheat over here in 12,500 tons silos since last 4 years with nil infestation. So if you can say that, storage losses are reduced, and I can use it at any given point of time, my heavy capital cost on silos has been self-sustainable. Next slide. This is the post-harvest data from Food and Agriculture Organization book. I have taken it down from there. So harvest, handling, threshing, drying, storage, transport, all they incur losses. So the total losses of during post-harvest, if not done properly, are ranging from 10% to 37%. So you can imagine, if you can have solutions by financing it, then financing those solutions will be self-sustainable, and return on investment will be really very, very fast. So the post-harvest solutions means, I would come to storage in the next slides. They are self-sustainable. The only thing is we have to have a courage to finance those, and I think you'll be making money out of it after that. Yeah, investment gets returned from those financial investments. Next slide, please. Now I'm coming to storage. Important. Due to self-reliance in case of man-made disasters, by storing grade equivalent, I mean, we should have at least a stock from season to season. I had seen there are 2 seasons of paddy as well as for the corn. So, and the duration is 6 months. So at least we should have 6 months between both harvesting seasons for paddy requirement as well as for corn. So 6 months corn consumption, 6 months of rice consumption, we should have at least minimum possible. And I would say that because Philippines is susceptible for natural disaster, they should have at least 1 year of it. I mean, it may, the cost of not feeding the populace is huge, politically huge price, once in 20 years, once in 30 years will, it can disturb the whole country. So it is very important we should have a storage of at least 6 months. And storage also helps us. I mean, once I was advising World Bank through World Bank that government of Bangladesh for increasing the capacity of silos in their port silos from 1 lakh tons. So port silos thumb rule is that it should handle 20 to at least 20 times the storage capacity. So they were hardly handling 800,000 tons instead of 2 million tons. So I found out and I gathered the figures of last 5 years of international prices of wheat. They were importing and distributing the wheat at a wrong time. I mean, in the sense, their storage operations and their policymakers for import clearance, they were not talking to each other. They were not, I mean, the trader used to say, oh, this is very cheap wheat. Let us import it without looking at the port level. And that ships used to stand there and they used to incur a lot of loss for ship holding systems. So over here, I see that, I heard that, prices during the production reduces drastically. And we also import. So there has to be timed, and that timing can be scattered beautifully along with ensuring the food security during normal time as well as disaster time, natural disaster time. The storage is of 6 months is at least expected. If we have a proper storage, then obviously I've shown you the 10 to 37% losses. Any investment is worth it. And storage does give you the ease of backward and forward integration from the farms as well as consumer levels. And again, I was saying provides cushions for spikes in the commodity prices due to the demand and supply at the international levels. Your next door, Vietnam, is aggressive in, their economy is dependent on their agriculture economy. So they will aggressively sell their produce, and the cost of that spikes, demand and supply spikes, will be borne by the public of Philippines, especially the farmers. I would say for recommendation for the storage, flat back storage is basic minimum, but bulk storage should be preferred. I will show you both of them in next slide. Next slide, please. See, to decide what kind of this thing is there, I would say the country of high moisture level country, like I would say natural 90% above is the Philippines. They should have bulk storage. The shelf life of food grains I've shown you in my previous slide of shelf life duration of moisture versus temperature, ambient temperature. So 12 to 13% is the best for long-term storage of the grains. And here humidity is I would say is a culprit in reducing the shelf life because EMC, equilibrium moisture content, comes into play. You will see that maize at whatever you dry, it will come down to 19.6%, thereby making sure that your shelf life is reduced. So I would prefer bulk storage in silos over the flat bag storage, because flat bulk bag storage will react to the temperature and moisture level. Next slide, please. Storage modernization. So quality and quantity of storage goes hand in hand. If we know the data of shelf life, we know the EMC curves of different grains. So then we cannot compromise on the quality of storage. And the best quality available as of today is bulk storage. So again, I'm emphasizing that we should have a minimum of storage capacity for monthly consumption between like 6 months between harvest to harvest of 2 seasons. Again, same in case of high susceptibility of natural disaster, the safe storage could be an yearly requirement. I sincerely feel, the way I've seen and studied the data over there, that at least 1 year should be made as a policy decision. And for political stability, for social security, for taking care of all the spikes which poor farmers has to face it. And 1 year of storage, I sincerely feels. I'm saying it subjectively. I can prove it on objectively gathering the data and all maybe later on. But I strongly feel 1 year equivalent of storage should be there, with having a proper post-harvest systems of drying, crop drying, grain drying, proper shelling system, rice milling, rice dryer. So, I mean, nothing will go waste. Let me assure you, everything will be sustainable within 2-3 years. It's a matter of noting down your requirement and spreading your investment for 4-5 years. Government can give viability gap funding, and if it is not there in the budget, then Asian Development Bank and World Bank will be too eager to help you for especially this. Bangladesh is getting 1 million ton of milled rice, parboiled rice storage in silos. So now they are implementing. I conceptualized that in 2014. Now everything is coming. They have now destroyed their all old flat bag storage and converting the all these infrastructure into steel silos. So uh, I sincerely feel Philippines should do that. Next slide, please. So storage modernization, types of storage: flat bag storage, vertical storage like steel silos, and there is a kind of bulk storage also. So the difference between steel silo, flat bag storage is that steel silos is a vertical silo, but it is not flexible. Flat bulk storage, like 5,000 steel silos, you can have one crop till the last grain is been reclaimed. But in flat bulk storage, we can have different modules. I will show you in the next slide. Different modules. You can store different. You can store paddy. You can store rice. You can store corn. You can store bag storage, bag dry with different varieties. You can have your workshop or things like that. The costing of this is flat bag storage cost, let us say, is X. Steel silo is 1.75x and flat bulk storage is about 1.25 times X. And land requirement, if you can say that the least land requirement is in the steel silo, which is 1/5 of the bag storage. And flat bulk storage can have half of the flat bag storage. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah. So these are the on the left hand side is the steel silos. On the right hand side is the bag storage. So it's obvious, that Philippines had been to that place. I've forgotten its name. That 50,000 tons corn silos with crop drying and shell drying, beautiful setup by Philmace. I think uh, I went there. I think 2014 or 15 over there. So Philippines is not new to these steel silos. And right hand side, I feel there would be a lot of flat back storage. Next slide. Now this both are flat bulk storage. On the right hand side, if you see that modules, different partitions, 5,000 tons may have 10 partitions, enabling the flexibility of different varieties to be handled. So this is a bit costly, this thing, because walls needs to be strengthened to withstand that pressure from the grain, lateral pressure from the grain. Another I'd seen, Sioux Steel Limited in USA, they are using is a very, very, would say, economical, and it's partially mobile also, So what they do is the walls are a minimum of 3 meter, and there is steel curves sporting a kind of a polycarbonate sheets above the this traces. So what they do is, that stock steel companies just want you to lay down the plinth as well as the sidewall. Rest they will bring. They will install it. They will give it. So this is very, very cheap. This cost may be lesser than even a flat back storage cost. So this is one kind of solution which is very cheap, and the cost of that roof, polycarbonate roof, is about 10 years. Life of the roof is 10 years, and it can withstand any kind of pressures like piercing it. You can repair it. It is fire resistant and everything. So I would say if the cost is the main thing, then on the left hand side, this kind of solutions are available, and which are very quick to implement also. And if you want to shift it, you lose only the plinth, and rest of the things can be shifted to wherever you want. Next slide, please. My conclusion. Conclusions are: food security, farmers' income securities are interdependent. So both politically sensitive issues are not independent, are not in isolation. They are correlated. And I'm making this conclusion after critically analyzing the food security and USA of USA, Canada, China, Bangladesh, India. So they have their own different kind of strategies to make sure that farmers don't get below their minimum support price, and they subsidize for consumer that various kind of subsidies to the various kind of economical strata of their populace. Farm sector generate maximum employment, so obviously the government's politics should be interested in knowing it and making sure that their populace is taken care of. And farmers are the most vulnerable of the whole society, because they are struggling in the farm. They are facing the natural calamities, and they are facing the international spikes in the rates and this thing. So obviously that government has to do handholding. Ensure food for all ensures good governance and political stability. It goes without saying. I mean, I don't have to sell that idea. Investment for post-harvest storage infrastructure to be spread over 5 years, and it can have a hand holding by government for by financing a viability gap funding, doing public-private partnership. So I mean, it can be public-private partnership or government 100% this thing. So if government can help in viability gap funding, so that would be a great hand holding for 3, 4, 5 years. Then later on, it will be self-sustainable. If government lacks fund, then ADB or World Bank can be asked for long-term loans. Next slide. Thank you very much for the opportunity once again, and my gratitude and thanks to all of you for patient listening. Thank you very much.